Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell.
I know you are, but what am I?
Oh, you stepped on. I feel like you gotta wait until I say what I am before you do that.
You said you're Josh Bell. That's what you are.
Oh, okay. I thought I was waiting for you to get to my full description, but
Yeah.
and actually, really, that doesn't work at all because shouldn't I be telling you what you are so that you can like turn it back on me?
Well, Josh,
I was saying you're my co-host, and then you would say, "I know you are, but what am I?"
That's been a good episode. We'll see you next time.
I just say, for a comedian, you seem to misunderstand the structure of this joke.
I know you are, but what am I?
I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and today I shall be played by the fetching Morgan Fairchild.
All right, and I guess that means I get to be played by James Brolin, so that's pretty exciting.
That's typecasting right there. So, you know.
I'm really quite the silver fox, I think.
You always have been.
Yeah, well, he's not in this movie, I guess. But we are here in our season on the films of 1985 to talk about our first feature pick, and it is the directorial debut from Tim Burton, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And while this is Tim Burton's directorial debut, I feel like most people pay attention to it more as the big screen debut of Paul Reubens' iconic character, Pee-wee Herman. But I think Tim Burton brings a lot to this movie as a director.
Yeah, I mean, they had another director lined up, and Paul Reubens said, no, that's not the guy. And they're like, we'll give you a week to find someone. And he went to a party that night, and he met Tim Burton. And I guess he had watched a short of Frankenweenie, and he was like, this is the dude. And just off of that, you know, just going on instinct, which I think, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Pee-wee as himself documentary from last year. And so much of what he did, because it's so different than anything out there, is based on just his instinct and his conviction and his belief in knowing the right way to present this character at all times. And I think, especially in this movie, it pays off tenfold.
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly the right choice. And I think, ironically, it was the right choice at this time when Burton hadn't made any feature films. He just made shorts like Frankenweenie, and Vincent, I think, is another one that Paul Reubens saw and that intrigued him. Whereas if this had been later Tim Burton, it probably would have been the wrong choice because his style got so calcified that it just overwhelmed whatever material he ended up working with.
We just talked about that on our Charlie and our Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory episode because I had rewatched the Burton remake, and I was saying how much I love the early Burton Beetlejuice stuff, this stuff where he's using practical effects, even Batman, you know. It just didn't. It just when he goes into CGI, it just feels lazy and not as realized and not as magical as the world of Burton that we've all come to know.
Yeah, and this is definitely magical. And I think there are certainly moments, especially like the dream sequences in this movie, that you can see the particular style visually that Burton will carry forward into his other work. But part of what makes this so magical is the use of the backlots and the practical effects, stop motion animation, which is something that Burton loves and had done a lot of. So I think it is the perfect fit. But yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, I suppose. Now, I don't know that he was ever considered for it, but when Pee-wee finally had his comeback movie in 2016, that Tim Burton was not the director, because I think that would have really just kind of overshadowed the Pee-wee character at that time. So, but a good fit here.
I was watching that last night. It's really good. The comeback, the Pee-wee's Holiday.
It is a fun one. So, and check out our Patreon if you want to listen to that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory episode, patreon.com/bydavidrosen.
I know you are, but what am I?
Bonus episodes there from our last season on 1971. So, this movie was a hit. I mean, of course, Pee-wee as a character was already established. Although this movie, I mean, it's not a kid's movie, but it is certainly like family appropriate, I would say. And Pee-wee hadn't necessarily up to this point been a children's character. Paul Reubens had made a bunch of appearances on the David Letterman show as Pee-wee. He had his stage show, the Pee-wee Herman show, which had also been adapted into an HBO special. So this was a character that was out there in pop culture, and this kind of brought that character to the next level. The movie grossed $40.9 million on its $7 million budget. And, maybe people who didn't have HBO or who didn't watch late night TV were first introduced to this character, taking him beyond that kind of cult status. And I mean, I think he's one of these characters that was just around, that maybe you wouldn't always have known, like, where did Pee-wee Herman come from? But he just became so ubiquitous that he was everywhere. And I'm going to throw Dave a bone here and say that it is similar to Ernest P. Worrell in that, a character who originated in various contexts, and different people first encountered different ways, but just became this sort of pop culture staple, I think. And this was a big part of it.
Well, Josh, if you want to go that way, and I like Ernest, but Ernest is the Kid Rock halftime show, and Pee-wee is the Bad Bunny halftime show.
I agree. Let's to be clear, Ernest is nowhere near in Pee-wee's league. I know that on Letterboxd, our friend Joe Black said that Ernest, commenting on Dave's review here, said that Ernest was better than Pee-wee, and Dave agreed with him. And I know, Jason, we can't tolerate that sort of thing.
You and that bag of yogurt, Joe Black, can just go elsewhere with your ridiculous takes, okay? Of course, Joe helped do post-production on my last movie, and I can't wait to see him at Pasadena International Film Festival.
Good guy.
So,
Good
yeah.
guy.
But, Josh, it's funny. I don't even know if you know this. There's a performer in town. He's a Cirque performer, and he was on America's Got Talent, and he does like this weird kind of body contortion stuff with like tennis rackets and stuff. It's a whole character, and he's trying to recruit me to co-write a screenplay with him for the character. And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And he goes, "It's basically Pee-wee's Big Adventure." And I was like, "You sold me. Just figure out how I have to be involved with this, and I'm in." But, all the stuff that you're talking about, and they go over it in the documentary, that stage show was huge. I think it was on Broadway beforehand, and he was such a part of the pop culture. But, I mean, and I don't want to keep saying it, but there's no one like him. He's singular. And what that documentary did for me was remind me of what a genius he was, right? Because it's just so thought out and just so unique. And, even when they're talking about Pee-wee's Playhouse, the way that kind of jib shot goes into it is something he had in his mind that he had to explain to people. So I can't recommend that documentary enough, and I can't recommend this movie enough. I really loved rewatching this thing.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. And I think you're right, is that even if you've never encountered Pee-wee before in any of those other contexts, you watch just a couple minutes of this movie and you have a real sense of like the uniqueness of this character and who this character is, and what he's like, and how he's going to interact with other characters and things like that. Even though a lot of stuff in this movie is unexpected and delightfully surprising, Pee-wee as a character is exactly who he is from the moment that he first appears on screen, I think.
He just inhabits this thing as a real, I don't even want to say fish out of water, because wherever he goes, he swims, right? It's just a world that he's built in his mind and has built out for all of us to experience and explore. And it's just wonderful. And I don't even know what I know you said Ernest, 80s. Like, what would you even compare this to today?
I don't know about this movie. I mean, the character, I think there's characters like this that come along periodically, like Ernest. I mean, one other character that I would compare it to is someone else who came up in The Groundlings with Paul Reubens, Cassandra Peterson, who has a little role in this movie, and Elvira, her character, who again started out, did a TV thing, and she was in some movies, and then she's in, like commercials, and a character who is just there. And you don't know necessarily, where did Elvira come from? Where did Pee-wee come from? Where did Ernest come from? I don't know. I'm sure we have characters like that now. I feel like if we have that now, they're characters who originate on YouTube,
right,
or TikTok or something. I think of this isn't as recent anymore, but like Miranda Sings, who I'm not super familiar with, but is a kind of annoying immature character who started out as a YouTube thing and then had her own Netflix show. And then I think had a scandal and got canceled. But
she's
like
no Miss Rachel. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Yeah. Miss Rachel is specifically for kids. But I think Miranda Sings was like Pee-wee, maybe not for kids initially, but then kids gravitated toward a character who was sort of broad and silly. And I don't know the details, but I'm pretty sure the creator of that character did some not great things.
I don't even know who that. Maybe I do, but what I think the important point you're making is like when you look at like how Pixar succeeded, it was like, oh, we're making kids movies, but the jokes are there for the adults and the kids, right? And that's what's the genius of Pee-wee Herman is it works on so many levels.
Right. Yeah. You can definitely watch this movie as an adult and appreciate it. But I think it worked for kids. And I don't necessarily know that it was made with kids in mind, but because of the sort of purity of the Pee-wee character that kids gravitated towards it. So did you watch this with your daughter?
I really wanted to. We used to watch some of it when she was a little younger, and I don't think she was ready for it yet. But due to scheduling, I had to watch this on my own. And might I say, Josh, I am great company to watch Pee-wee Herman with. So
I'm sure
I had a great time hanging out with myself watching Pee-wee Herman. No, I mean, I think we're in for a real surprise. You know, we just put up on our Facebook, like, what movies do people want us to cover? And maybe 1985 is underestimated in the pop cultural zeitgeist, how many different things like lived on. I'm really excited for this season. And this is a perfect first feature choice for us.
Yeah, I mean, certainly thus far, you know, between this and Back to the Future, these are movies that very much remain entrenched in pop culture and characters and, you know, images and all of that stuff. So I think we're going to get to more of that as this season goes on. So interestingly enough, this is beloved now, but critics weren't necessarily all that into it in 1985. Siskel and Ebert did not review it on their show when it was released, but when they got to the end of 1985 and they did the worst movies of 1985, Siskel, who hated this movie, picked it as one of the worst movies of 1985. And it's funny to watch that because he talks about how much he hates it and he plays a clip from it. And then Ebert's response is like, oh, well, I haven't seen this movie, but based on your clip, now I want to see it. and Siskel is like, well, if you thought that clip was funny, then I guess you'll like it. and he was right, because then a couple years later, Ebert put it on one of his lists of guilty pleasures. So Ebert did like it. He just didn't.
It's not a guilty pleasure, though. To me, it's like, let's all, you know, it's a warm, it's a feel good movie, you know?
It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, going off on a little tangent, the other day I watched The Commitments, the 1991 great Irish film about a white soul band in Dublin trying to like really break through. And it's just like, you know, we've covered Slapshot. It's one of those movies you can put on at any point in time like this. And it just makes you feel better about the world, which, fuck, man, we need that right now.
It is. I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one who has this as that kind of thing, that as a comfort movie or something to revisit over and over again. And I mean, I don't do that just in a general sense, but certainly this is a fun.
Do you have any? I feel like Bring It On for you would be one, or
sure.
Something.
Like I have movies that I really like, but I don't watch movies over and over again.
You don't like comfort.
Well, I would say if I was looking for something like that, I would watch a movie that I'd never seen before. Just like watching a movie might be a comfort movie, and it might be something in a particular genre or subcategory that I like. Like, oh, I'll watch an 80s slasher movie, or I'll watch a pre-code comedy, but I will watch one that I never seen before because I still want to watch a new movie. But that is my comfort watching.
Dave, Henny?
I mean, it used to be Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, as you guys know, but I lately have not been rewatching movies very often. So I'm always trying to squeeze in more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatch movies pretty much only when it's something for like this podcast or for an article that I'm writing. And not that I don't enjoy rewatching movies that I liked when I end up doing it, but for my choices, I usually will watch something that I've never seen.
For the most part, I'm with you guys, but I think because it's the beginning of the year and I just went on that like catch up at the, everything from last year. I'm watching a little more of like things I've seen before. Again, partially because of this podcast, but it's nice to revisit these things.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. And I enjoyed revisiting this movie, which I definitely have a good time with. So critics were, again, they were mixed on this, but Michael Wilmington in the Los Angeles Times was relatively positive. He said, Pee-wee is the creation of Los Angeles comic Paul Reubens, and he inhabits this role with the eerily intense, fixed concentration of the late Andy Kaufman as Tony Clifton. That's what makes the character work, this sense of absolute crazed conviction. And it makes the movie work as well, for its own audience. Be forewarned, this film is not for anyone whose taste in humor runs only to silky Oscar Wildean epigrams or naturalistic comedies of the Tootsie School. The wrong crowd will find these antics infantile and offensive. The right one will have a howling good time.
I really like these reviews you're bringing up because they're so off base of what we know as Pee-wee Herman, because he was such a pop cultural icon and phenomenon. So like this style of humor might not work for you. Like everyone knew the style of humor by the time we were growing up. So it's interesting to hear these like, hey, this is something new, kids. You might not be ready for it. So here's my warning for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's understandable that like this is not a highbrow movie. I do think that,
but it's smart.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think so. I think Paul Reubens is clever, and creating a character like this requires that level of intelligence. But I think it's fair to say that like this is a silly movie, and some people don't go for that. And interestingly enough, Jason, what you're saying, Siskel is the opposite. He talks on that show about how he loves Pee-wee Herman, how he always enjoys seeing him on the David Letterman show, and he enjoyed his HBO special, but he hated the movie, which is a weird reaction.
That is weird, because I feel like this encapsulates everything you want from Pee-wee Herman. And, for someone like Siskel, like this is Bicycle Thieves, right? This is, right. There's a lot of nods to film history in here, which, between Burton and Paul Reubens, I think obviously they knew exactly what they were doing with it. So it's a strange reaction that this guy's having.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to think that like 5-minute segment on Letterman is the ideal showcase, and anything longer than that, Pee-wee gets really tired or tiresome, and that's what he feels like. So Pauline Kael in The New Yorker, surprisingly, also positive about this for the most part.
Way to go, Pauline.
Directed by the 26-year-old Tim Burton, who was already a veteran of the animation department at Disney, this slapstick fantasy has the bouncing along inventiveness of a good cartoon. It seems to be taking place in an alternate world, LA as a playground, and it's set in a period of its own, a 50s, 80s Twilight Zone, where you might not be surprised to bump into Harry Langdon or Steve Martin as the jerk. It's when Pee-wee gets on the road that Burton shows his flair for the silly surreal. The LA sets are a little fussy and confining, but there's an untrammeled giddiness about the incidents in Texas and along the way. The film has its limp moments, especially toward the end, and it has an excruciatingly fancy dream sequence featuring clowns, always a mistake. But each time you think it's running out of steam, it comes up with something new and totally out of nowhere.
Did you take his hometown as LA?
I mean, it was shot in LA, which may be what she means, but no, of course not. I think the hometown is meant to be Nowheresville, everything.
Fairview, yeah, yeah. So
I mean, it's Anytown, USA, I think is what it's meant to be.
Right, but part of the charm is that like artifice of like it's a town, but it's clearly a set.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not all set. Like the mall was shot in a real mall and in LA and that kind of stuff. So, and the exterior of the house is real. I watched a documentary. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was a documentary about, real life houses that were used in movies, and the outside, at least, of this house was featured in that.
Movie House, the documentary.
Yeah, I think it's called like The House From. I'm not 100% sure. It was a fun little movie.
That sounds okay.
So yeah, it was okay.
Honestly, I watched this last week. I don't even remember the clown tree. I mean, I vaguely remember it, but it didn't make enough of a mark on me where I'm like, oh, clown dream sequence.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the more Burton-y touches where they have the clowns. They're like doctors and nurses, and they're doing surgery on the bike, and they're going down this sort of like skewed hallway that looks like something out of Beetlejuice. That was one moment in the movie where I was like, oh, here's Burton kind of asserting his visual style. And
I think you get that with the stop motion a lot,
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's definitely, you can see the makings of what's to come with Beetlejuice.
Right. And that was one of those moments. So I thought that sequence was fun. I mean, is it superfluous? Like, sure, but so is everything in the movie. I mean, that's kind of the point, is that Pee-wee just goes through all of these random things for no reason.
Right. They come from the groundlings and it's sketch based, but it all works. I mean, again, it's that whole idea of like, it's episodic, which you can make that note about any movie, but all the episodes work here.
Right. Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, for her to single that out, I don't know. I guess she just doesn't like clowns.
How do you feel about them?
I mean, I think Burton uses them right. Like, they're creepy clowns here. I think that's the way to go when you have clowns in movies. As we probably have discussed.
When I made my short film Sally Pepper's Neighborhood Detective, and I played a
classic,
a classic that one reviewer called smug and insufferable, and I debated. I said, "Sir, it might be smug, but you can definitely suffer through this." So, but anyway, I played a clown, and the makeup artist did this amazing makeup on me, and it was just for like a quick shot. And I was like, "Well, this is too good. I gotta still be a clown for the rest of the day." So I told my sound man, just follow me and just go with me. Just follow my lead. So I went into a 7-Eleven, and then he came in like 2 minutes later, and I'm at the register. He comes up and I'm like, "Hey, Eduardo, good to see you." And I'm in full clown makeup. He's like, "Oh, hey, man." And I'm like, "Hey, dude, I'm having a party this weekend. You should come by." And he goes, "I don't know. Your parties get weird." And that was our piece of performance art for the day. It was a good time.
For the audience of like some poor 7-Eleven.
Yeah, who had no idea what was going on. So,
oh man, I feel sorry for that person. So, finally, Vincent Canby in the New York Times was not a fan of this. He said, "There are two funny things in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. One is a waitress who explains why her boyfriend doesn't want to go to Paris. The other is a pretty, unstoppably gushy young woman named Tina who acts as a tour guide at the Alamo in San Antonio. I reveal this information as a consumer service, for Pee-wee's Big Adventure is otherwise the most barren comedy I've seen in years, maybe ever. It introduces motion picture audiences to a popular California comic named Pee-wee Herman, who seems to have put together his public personality by ransacking the wardrobes of his betters. Like them all, he desperately wants to be funny, but unlike them, he isn't."
Whose review is this?
This is Vincent Canby in the New York Times.
You asshole, Canby. So, also, yeah, Jan Hooks is always great. She's
really good.
Yeah, she plays the tour guide. But Simone is there. I don't think anyone's like, "Oh man, Simone is so funny in this movie." Like the waitress, that's a ridiculous take.
No, I mean, he's just citing the bit where she says like her boyfriend doesn't want to go to Paris because he thinks people are making fun of him by speaking French, like that joke.
I mean, I don't know, man. That's pretty lame of a take. I also didn't like watch it and be like, yeah, he's stealing the wardrobe of, older movie icons either. I don't know. I just think it's a totally off base review.
I mean, I think it is a conscious throwback to people like that. In fact, again, going back to that Siskel and Ebert clip, when Ebert sees, the clip from the movie that Siskel shows to illustrate how it sucks, he says, "Oh, this reminds me of Harold Lloyd." And I think that's a perfectly like fair assessment. And certainly the way that Pee-wee is made up with the sort of pale face makeup and the rouge and the lipstick is reminiscent of silent comedians where, they would use that kind of high contrast makeup as a way, to sort of get a visual signature. So I think he is. I mean, I don't think in a negative way. I think he understands the tradition of whether it's silent comedians or, Monsieur Hulot from Jacques Tati movies or Marcel Marceau, mime and that kind of stuff. Like, I think Paul Reubens is familiar with that stuff and he's consciously incorporating elements into it. It's influences. It's not a bad thing.
All right, I'll give you that. But Josh, he talks.
He does talk, yes. Well,
so you got to give me that one.
I will give you that. Yes, he talks. I mean, there's other influences there as well, but that is true. So, I mean, I think to me that's one of the appeals of this movie is that it is in that kind of comedy tradition.
No, I agree that there's nods to film history. I just didn't look at the wardrobe and maybe I was mistaken and be like, oh, this is. But I do see like what you're saying. Yes, the kind of silent comedian always in the same outfit situation. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just take him as I know he's building on something, but he's just so original to me that I kind of lean in towards that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I agree with you. I think this is certainly a unique creation here. So, did you first watch this as a kid, Jason?
Oh yeah, buddy. Watched it as a kid. I couldn't tell you the first time. Haven't seen it in a while, and it was a delight. I will tell you, as a child, that Large Marge scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that's I think a common reaction. So, I think I watched it as a kid too. I'm sure I did because I know I liked Pee-wee's Playhouse as well. And like you, I don't remember specifically the first time I saw it, but it's one of those things also that I think was on TV a lot. And I would have watched snippets of it every now and then. And I loved Tim Burton, as we've talked about, I'm sure, in our episode on Batman and probably mentioned again in that Willy Wonka episode. So, I mean, this was a big part of like early on when I first started paying attention to like who directed movies. And Burton was one of the first people that I noticed because of Batman and Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. And this was definitely part of that. And I'm not sure the last time I saw it. I feel like I did watch it at least once as an adult, not that long ago. But I mean, I say that and that was probably like 15 years ago or something at this point. But I had watched it recently enough to remember a lot of the elements. It wasn't completely surprising and new to me again.
Well, I hadn't watched it in a while, and I still remember a good amount of the elements. So I think that just talks about how iconic and ingrained this is in pop culture.
And that's true too. I mean, so many like Large Marge, for example, are things that get referenced and people always remember them. So, Dave, did you watch this as a kid?
So I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I had ever actually seen this. And I think I had told you guys I wasn't particularly a fan. I didn't not like Pee-wee. I just, for some reason, didn't watch him growing up. And so I may have seen this, or certainly a lot of parts I remember, but at the same time, they could just be because they're so ingrained in pop culture, like you guys are saying. But yeah, I think this was a first time watch for me.
That's crazy because as, you know, a fan of Ernest and Weird Al and so many of the things that you love, I feel like Pee-wee would be a big thing for you.
I agree completely. And I'm glad I ended up liking it. Another one that I feel like fits into this same mold is Chris Elliott and like his various characters. They all kind of feel like this just timeless, weird thing that just kind of showed up one day.
Right. I mean, you could see Pee-wee fitting in as the like main character of Cabin Boy.
Sure.
I think, you know, it's the kind of weird adventure that Pee-wee might have.
Well, but the main adventure of Cabin Boy was the Cabin Boy.
Yeah, but Pee-wee could have been a cabin boy.
Just kidding with you.
Yes.
I went as Pee-wee Herman for Halloween the year that he got arrested for masturbating, which he should have never been arrested. It was in a porno theater. That's what you go in there for.
Did you just go as regular Pee-wee, or did you go as like masturbating Pee-wee?
I think I was too young to really understand it, but maybe it was like trying to get to that level, but never officially got that level.
I guess I'm thinking of your Halloween costumes in high school, like the molesting priest.
Yeah, no, I was a child molesting cowboy priest, which you could never do now. I had a cowboy hat and a black shirt and the collar. And I had a Miss Piggy Muppet Baby doll that I just had in my pants.
I remember the doll in your pants. I didn't remember that it was Miss Piggy.
You know, the funny thing is, one, you could never do that. And not that I would want to do that now. But two, like they let me do that for the whole day there at high school as a child molesting cowboy priest.
Very strict high school that we went to.
Oh, Dave will be happy to know. I did go as Ernest one year in high school, too. You remember that?
I do remember that. That was a less offensive costume, certainly.
Yeah, impressions and all kinds of things.
There was definitely some Hey Vern in there that day, good. But no, last story, Josh. Last night I was talking to this lady at a bar, and I was telling her we were covering this because she said she wanted to go as Pee-wee Herman one year for Halloween, like coming up, and I was like, oh, I found all these like cool things, like this. There's this like Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas special. Oh yeah. She's like, yeah, the one from the 80s Pee-wee's Playhouse. And I'm like, yeah, you know it. And she's like, yeah, of course. And we're supposed to go on a hangout session, Josh. Not going to put any expectations on it, but she seems like I should marry her. No expectations, We'll probably have babies and live happily ever after together, right?
I feel like there was very little relevance to that story other than you wanted to say that you were going to go on a date. And I appreciate that.
I just love that Jason, during hanging out with ladies, talks about his podcast. I think that's really sweet.
Thank you for plugging the podcast.
I'm a podcast bro now. I have a podcast, so. It's at a trivia night, man. Lots of pop culture comes up, including our podcast.
That's great. I'm all for it. Please continue mentioning the podcast. So anything else you want to say about the background of this movie?
Well, we got to mention who, the Groundlings connection, which is one of the great improv schools and troops in LA, co-written by Groundlings member Michael Varhol, who co-wrote the Big Picture, a Christopher Guest movie that I still have never seen. And of course, the great Phil Hartman, who was such an important collaborator to Paul Reubens, both on screen and off.
Yeah, and Phil Hartman shows up in a very small role here as a reporter. And Jan Hooks, who we mentioned, was also a member of the Groundlings, who plays that Alamo tour guide and is great here. So we'll come back and talk some more general thoughts on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1985, we are talking about Tim Burton's first feature, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And Jason, as you said, this movie is episodic. I mean, not in a bad way, but it is just kind of like a bunch of little incidents as Pee-wee goes haphazardly from one thing to another. Do you have a favorite episode? Is there a favorite sequence in this movie?
I thought the stuff with the bikers was pretty ingenious, I mean, I guess I should say, starting from the beginning, that whole first 15 minutes where you see the bike in the house with all the, contraptions and inventions, and his relationship with Francis, who's such an 80s bully, he could be right out of Better Off Dead or something like that. I loved all that stuff. I loved how important the bike was to him. And when you get to the biker bar, the fact that they all want to kick his ass, but what turns it around is him dancing on a bar to tequila in high heels. It's pretty amazing that worked. I still don't know. I'm like, how did this become the idea? And it just worked. And of course, that's with your girl Elvira in there.
Yeah. Cassandra Peterson is in that biker scene, and I believe that weird little dance that he does was something that, again, like an element
on stage. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I don't know. It's different when you're on stage, right? You're live, you're getting that visceral, immediate feedback. So sometimes you can do something like that, and then you watch it on screen and it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah, but it really does. And like you said, it's like, okay, so why is tequila is the song and this dance that's sort of awkward, but it becomes iconic, and the shoes. I love they're like platform shoes or something. And you see him whisper to some cook there in the bar, and who is wearing these shoes for some reason. And I just love, you don't see the shoes yet. The cook hands him the shoes, and suddenly the guy is much shorter. You're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's what's going on.
I mean, the fact that a short order cook at a greasy spoon biker bar is wearing platform heels is pretty odd in itself, right?
Right. And I don't know why he's got to make sure that he's tall enough to stand up to these bikers, or who knows? I mean, the whole thing makes no sense, but it is very amusing, definitely. And it's one of those things, too. It's so iconic. And I watched Big Top Pee-wee, which was the unfortunate follow-up from 1988. And one of the few elements that they kind of call back to in that movie is he does the dance again. And it's just sad, I think, in there.
I think, we all used to do that dance as kids, right?
I don't know if I ever did. I mean, I liked watching it in the movie.
Do it now.
I don't. I'm not a dancer. I never was a dancer, even as a kid. I don't think I ever danced.
I love that dance as a child. So
yeah, it's a fun one, certainly. So
how about you? You like the Texas stuff, I feel like.
I mean, I do. I think Jan Hooks is very funny in the whole Alamo sequence. But I mean, my favorite thing watching it this time, I think, was the big chase through the back lot, because of the way you talk about awareness of film history or whatever. The way that he just barrels through so many different types of films that would in no way have all been in production at the same studio. I mean, I definitely have an affinity for these kinds of movies, like that kind of backstagey showbiz thing, especially with backlots and sound stages going back to movies from the 30s or whatever. And even by 1985, I feel like probably a lot of movies weren't being made this way per se. But the idea that on a single day, he's going to, ride through the sets, and here we've got like a Frankie and Annette style beach party movie, and we've got like a Godzilla style monster movie, and we've got a Twisted Sister music video, and we've got a Christmas movie, and Jason Hervey from the Wonder Years is this annoying child star in something that's like Bells Are Ringing, or Bells of St. Mary's or something like that. All of these movies that would not be made in 1985, probably, other than the Twisted Sister music video. And it's just this adventure through movie magic that I really like.
Yeah. So one, Jason Hervey, what a year, 1985. We just saw him in Back to the Future. He's doing just A-okay for himself this year.
Yeah, I mean, very small parts in both of these movies.
Stop it, Josh! Don't you?
He is funny as the asshole child star.
Yeah, he's always been good at that. But two, I agree with you, and not just for like the homages or the looks at all these movies, but the way that is shot and edited. I watched that sequence twice because it's really cut to a rhythm and like really smartly shot. And then there's the thing where it's like a wall, and he puts up a fake wall in front of it, and they run into the fake wall, running into the real wall, which is just ridiculous,
Right, it's like a Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it is. So I really like that sequence too. It's just weird all the way through, and the whole MacGuffin of like, oh, your bikes. I didn't remember. I thought like because he goes to see a psychic who shockingly is a scam artist. She says, your bike's in the basement of the Alamo. So that's how he gets to Texas. And when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, maybe she's right. But the Alamo's like the biker bar, and it's in the basement of the biker bar called the Alamo or whatever. But it turned out it was just a MacGuffin to get us on the road and everything. And it's just fun the whole way through. Like, even the stuff at the beginning where he goes to the bike shop, and Dottie, who plays Tommy Pickles on Rugrats,
Yeah, Daily.
Yeah, she's always trying to ask him out, and I thought you would really appreciate that, knowing that like Paul Reubens was gay, all the subversive subtext. I got plenty of homosexual subtext in this one for you, Josh.
There is, and it's funny / sad to watch Big Top Pee-wee, where they wildly overcompensate for that by having Pee-wee in a love triangle with two hot women that he's like jumping on top of, essentially, and it's pretty. And this does not work.
This is very funny because Dottie's always asking him, like, "I'm a loner, Dottie," and all that stuff. And then you get to the sequence with the escaped convict, and those two are smoldering for each other, Josh.
Yeah, they are, and the bit which is also very funny, where there's a roadblock, and the escaped convict is worried that he's going to get caught. And Pee-wee's like, wait, I have an idea. And then somehow 2 seconds later, they're in these complete disguises. And where did they come from? Who knows? And Pee-wee is in drag. And clearly, both the police officer and the ex-convict are very attracted to Pee-wee in drag. And I mean, it's a funny bit because, of course, I love the like surreal stuff like this. And I feel like this is in movies like The Naked Gun or whatever, where it's just like all of a sudden this happened, and how did this possibly happen? We don't know. And then of course, immediately afterward, it's all gone. And that's funny in and of itself. But also, yeah, I mean, there's the clear subtext there. And my impression of Pee-wee as a character isn't necessarily that he's gay, even if Paul Reubens was gay, but that he's just like asexual. He turns Dottie down. If Simone is kind of making some hints at him, he's not interested in that either. But he's not up for the dudes who are hot for him in drag.
He's a loner, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree with you on that 100%. But I just think that Paul Reubens, as a gay man who probably couldn't come out at that point in time and have the career he had, was so subversive in adding that subtext in there in such a smart way. I thought it was pretty brilliant if you know this about him.
No, totally. And I mean, and I think he's able to do that and also put it in the tradition. We just mentioned Looney Tunes, and the Pee-wee and drag sequence is very much in the tradition of like Bugs Bunny and drag. Yeah, absolutely.
Who Garth really thought was hot.
Yeah, I just watched this random like coming of age movie set in 1982 with these three kids, and they also talk. There's a whole sequence where they talk about Bugs Bunny dressed as a lady bunny and how he gives Elmer Fudd a bonus.
What is that called?
It's called Last Ride. It's okay. The kids, it's more of like a thriller. The kids, they get stuck in a cable car in like at a ski resort in Norway, and they like freeze to death. So it's but before then they have like these bonding moments.
So I was going to say, because I was talking to my brother Max about this today, and we were talking about Pee-wee's Playhouse and the stuff that we're talking about of like how children and adults can both enjoy this stuff. He goes, my favorite line is Conky, the talking robot, breaks down, right? So they have to call the Conky repairman, not just a robot repairman, a Conky repairman, played by Jimmy Smits, right? And Jimmy Smits comes in and he looks over Conky, and Miss Yvonne, the prettiest woman in all of Puppetland, is there, right? Jimmy Smits goes, yep, I can fix him. I just got to get my trusty wrench. And Miss Yvonne says, isn't that your wrench in your pocket? And Jimmy Smits goes, nope. And they just leave it hanging. And they don't ever say what's in his pocket or anything like that. Just good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that works here really well because you can show this to a kid and you won't think, oh, there's inappropriate sexual innuendo in this movie because it's so it's subtext. But as an adult, you can see what's going on here, and you can see maybe, like you said, Paul Reubens able to express some of that personal feeling that he wasn't able to be open about. But again, I think that's what makes Big Top Pee-wee so sad, is because they get it all wrong. And they seem to have decided that we need to make sure everyone knows that Pee-wee is hot for ladies. It just does not work.
I haven't seen that since the theater, probably, Big Top Pee-wee. And I know they approached Burton and he didn't want to do it. But, I guess I could say, I don't even know if I watched Pee-wee's Holiday before when it had come out. But watching that now, it seems like while they're not exactly following the canon, they've at least gotten the character right again.
Yeah, and Pee-wee's Big Holiday is full of gay subtext. Like
him and Joe Manganiello.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically in love with Joe Manganiello in that movie. So, and it's fun, but again, it's still in this wholesome, like almost asexual way. And I think that's what works for the character. So there's also, I mean, this is a great movie for little supporting roles. We mentioned Jan Hooks, we mentioned Simone the waitress, you mentioned Dottie, who is very fun, but I mean,
and
even
Francis, I think you have to throw in there.
Francis is great, but I mean, even almost anyone, there's like no character in this movie that Pee-wee talks to for more than like a second who isn't some like little weirdo. And I love that, like Francis's butler, right? Isn't he a famous pro wrestler? The guy who shows up?
3-time tag team champion, Josh. Yes.
Right. I mean, and he has like 2 lines and could easily have just been like a stereotypical English butler or just a guy, but he has to be this really distinctive looking wrestler. And I feel like everyone is that kind of character, Amazing Larry, who we cut to for like a second in Pee-wee's big meeting that he has where everyone's going to try to help him find his bike. And he's got this weird mohawk.
Like, I like that. Yeah, his name is Amazing Larry. And, going with that, like that mall is like, you're watching and you're like, oh, this mall is so much fun, right? You're at the bike shop and now you're at the magic shop. And, the magic shop, they're just showing all these tricks. And there's no need for that scene other than that he needs to have his bike stolen. But it could have happened when he was in the bike store. So it's like just there because it's his world.
Right. And I mean, it pays off to, we see in the end when we have the premiere at the drive-in of the Pee-wee movie and he's going around to all these people. It's like, oh, hey, here's the hobo who sings all the traditional public domain songs on the train. And, you've got the ex-convict who's now been recaptured and he's handcuffed, but he's there at the movie premiere and all of this stuff and the bikers. It's just there wasn't a single scene or character that Paul Reubens and Tim Burton didn't do something distinctive with, didn't put thought into and find somebody who would be memorable to play that role. And I really appreciate it.
So they talk about it in the documentary. The original take of this film was he was going to remake, is it Pollyanna, the movie from the 60s?
Yeah, which I've never seen.
Me neither, but he just thought they started writing it and it was just all wrong for what it needed to be. So again, it just shows how smart he was about this character and what it needed to be and finding the right collaborators to bring it to life. Pee-wee's got a nice house, a nice bike, nice clothes. Well, how does he make his money?
I mean, I think that's one of the charms of Pee-wee, that we don't know these things. I mean, we don't even know, is Pee-wee like an immature adult or is he like an actual child in some way? I mean, Francis too, right? Lives with his daddy and takes baths and has the same sort of childlike demeanor in a mean way. But you know, he and Pee-wee are on the same intellectual level, let's say. And I think the charm of it is that, who knows? We don't really know any of this, and we don't need to know any of it, and we don't want to know any of it. And if you tried to explain it, it would make it worse.
Did either of you have a bike as a kid that was like all the rage, like that you were really proud of?
No, I've probably talked about this before, but I did not ever want to learn to ride a bike, and my mom forced me to take bike riding lessons.
Right, from your guitar teacher or something like that.
No, it was from my PE teacher from school that she hired to do this, who was also the mother of a kid I was sort of friends with. But anyway, yeah, so I had a bike, I'm sure, that I got because of that, but I didn't enjoy bike riding, and I learned, I got to the point where I could ride the bike down the street or whatever the standard was, and that was literally the last time I ever rode a bike up to this very moment. So I was not a bike rider, but did you have that, Jason? Did you have did you put playing cards in the spokes and things like that?
I think you're a little before the 80s. I think you're going back to the 60s. In the 80s, It was like you put pegs on it so people could ride on the back. But I did have a Huffy White Heat. That was my big bike that I really wanted, and I got it and had like neon green in it. And it was all right. It was fun. I used to ride. I mean, I lived in just a town in New Jersey. You'd ride my bike everywhere, dude. So.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's something that kids do. I just, I didn't like it. So Dave, were you a bike rider? Did you have a cool bike?
Never even learned how.
See, now I'm kind of jealous of you.
Hey, 10 new Patreon subscribers. I teach both of you how to ride a bike.
People would want to see that too, I'm sure.
The cliche, right, is that if I learned it as a kid, I should still be able to do it, right? Isn't that like the whole concept?
Right. An elephant never forgets. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That you never forget how to ride a bike. So I guess I could try someday and see if that holds true. If 35 years later or whatever it is, I could still know how to ride a bike. I don't know. We could find out.
The one other thing we should talk to now that Dave's awake is I think this is Danny Elfman's first score. Yeah. And, legendary collaborator with Burton and so many others. And he turned in the music and he's like, they're probably going to reject all of it. And it just fits perfectly with the vibe.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up too. And I think he had scored something before this for his brother or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the first feature, Hollywood movie. But yeah, it's perfect. Like all of his scores are always so much fun. And this right out the gate, he's already doing a score that is super memorable and super fun. But yeah, and then as far as the movie is concerned, I'm with you guys. So much of this is just marching to its own beat. And that's so just refreshing and great to see for any kind of comic personality. Like so many comedians have tried to do this and failed. And then, when it works though, it's great because it's something unique and original.
Yeah, and you don't know if it's going to translate. I mean, obviously, someone like Siskel felt like it didn't, but regardless of that particular thing, this could have not worked. You have a stage show, you have a persona that's great for talk show appearances. Is that going to sustain a 90-minute narrative film? Can you tell a story with this person, with this character? Can you surround them with other characters and all of that? And there certainly are examples of things like that. Particular comedic personas that are popular and, studios say, let's put this in a movie, and it just does not work. And it really does here. But I think, again, if you look at Big Top Pee-wee, you can see how it could not work, and that you have to have the right collaborators, you have to have the right story, you have to have the right tone in order to capture what is appealing about this character and translate it into a feature film. And they really do a great job with that. And I think Burton is a major part of that. He understands the character like Paul Reubens does.
So should we rate it out of 5 red Schwinn bicycles, Josh?
Let's do it.
Josh, I thought about this. I thought long and hard about this, Josh. And what you have is one genius creating a vision and another genius elevating that vision to create something singular that I don't think anyone else could have created. And it's so wonderful and whimsical and perfectly executed. 5 red Schwinns from this guy.
All
yes,
right.
it's a 5.
That is high praise.
Yes, I'm going with it. 5 red Schwinns, baby.
I'm going to give it 4. I think I had initially put 3.5 on Letterboxd, and then I thought about it and I bumped it up to 4. It is really good. And I think, there's some nostalgia factor here, but like you said, it's a uniquely crafted piece. And you can certainly say that Paul Reubens and Tim Burton are both artistic visionaries. And it's a really fun movie to watch. It's not just like an artistic achievement. It's just fun.
And 4 from you is like 5 from the rest of us.
Yeah. I mean, this is certainly one of my favorite movies of 1985. And I enjoyed it very much. So 4 out of 5 bicycles from me. Dave, how do you rate this?
I'm going 4 out of 5 bicycles, and looking forward to watching the other 2 movies, even if Big Top is not, very high regarded. I got to see it at some point.
Yeah, we'll talk about it again in a moment, but I don't know that.
I mean, this has to be one of our highest rated overall films that we've ever done. I'd say
it could be. Yeah, I mean, and it's like if you've never seen it, you should watch it. It's very enjoyable. So we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1985, we are talking about first feature Pee-wee's Big Adventure from director Tim Burton. And we've mentioned other Pee-wee projects. Of course, this was a hit, so the Pee-wee character was then everywhere. Big Top Pee-wee is the sequel. I mean, it's sort of a sequel. It's really just a standalone new adventure for Pee-wee. There's no continuity there, and Pee-wee is in a completely different context. He lives on a farm and he has a talking pig sidekick, and it just completely misses the mark as to what Pee-wee is about. He's super horny for his fiance played by Penelope Ann Miller, and then he meets this acrobat. No, I mean, she's very attractive. And then he meets this acrobat played by Valeria Golino, who's also incredibly sexy. And then he basically like throws his fiance off for this acrobat because the circus comes to town. And that's like the whole plot of the movie. I mean, there's stuff about the circus and the townspeople. He lives in this weird, like old timey Western type town almost. And the townspeople are very closed minded. They don't like the circus, but none of it really makes any sense. I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure kind of makes no sense, but in a fun way. And Big Top Pee-wee just doesn't make sense at all. And you don't care about what's going on. And Pee-wee's kind of a weird creep. And it all does not work.
Okay, but that's fine because at the same, similar time, Pee-wee's Playhouse was on the air, which was a huge success. Won, I think, like 15 Emmys, for children's programming. I remember it was appointment viewing every Saturday morning. Still holds up as brilliant. And like we said, the comeback in the 2000s was interesting because he went away from the Pee-wee persona. He acted in things like Mystery Men. And I remember when he hosted the game show You Don't Know Jack and everything. And then he came back as Pee-wee. I think he started the stage show. And then Apatow produced the movie that we're talking about, which is Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which is delightful. And the documentary was my favorite documentary last year, Pee-wee as himself. So it was really sad when he died, and none of us expected it because I know he was so secretive. But I think he went out as the legend that we all know him to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that Big Top Pee-wee it's sort of a, it's a side note or whatever at this point. And I loved Pee-wee's Playhouse as a kid. That's certainly something I was always watching. And Pee-wee's Big Holiday is fun. I think when he revived that stage show, it did also, again, there was another HBO special, which I have not seen, but, that whole cycle kind of went through again. So it's nice that he got that redemption, as we said in 1991, which was kind of at the height. Pee-wee was hugely popular and he had that arrest and he just retreated entirely. I mean, I think it was a scandal and, Pee-wee's Playhouse, which I think had already been planned to go off the air, but it was pulled and everything. But I think he maybe reacted in a stronger way, like completely retreating from everything for a long period of time. And then it took a while for him to slowly come back into those movie and TV roles, like you mentioned. Mystery Men. He's fun in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. He's in Batman Returns, going back to Tim Burton. Yeah. I always remember his great role on 30 Rock as this weird, like inbred monarch from Eastern Europe or something like that. That's very amusing. So, I mean, he was great in these other little roles, but I think it took him a long time of playing those parts to feel like, okay, I'm accepted. People enjoy seeing me. I can do other things. And maybe now it's okay for me to do Pee-wee again.
I remember, I think it was the MTV Movie Awards after the arrest and, everything. And he comes out as Pee-wee Herman. And the first thing he says is, "So, heard any good jokes?" And it's like a perfect, but yeah, I think you're right. Like it almost felt like a witch hunt out to get him. And, there are allegations and they go into it in the movie about him looking at improper or collecting improper pornography. Because I think he was like a pornography like art collector or something. And, and he gives his side of the story and I don't know. I want to believe him. So I'm going to believe him, Josh, because I love the Pee-wee Herman.
Right. I think so. I mean, the idea was that he would buy these big sort of lots of vintage pornography and you don't really know what's in it. And there might have been some material in there that could have been considered inappropriate that he didn't even know was part of it. And I think that is believable. And like you said, the arrest was clearly something where, police are going into people who are not harming anyone. And, it's like,
well, I think they probably called like, "Hey, guess who's in the movie theater right now?" Yeah.
Right. It could very well be. So, I mean, and I think it's all also tied in with what you were talking about, the idea that he felt like he could not come out as gay at any time. I mean, that wasn't revealed publicly until after he was dead. And so, I think part of his retreat from the spotlight might have been not only, oh, I was arrested and this is embarrassing and it's inappropriate for me for this child, this children's character, but that, to maybe like open up and say, hey, I'm gay. And, this is part of like me kind of hiding that. It was just not something that he felt that he could do at any time.
Yeah. With that, does anyone want to come out as gay right now?
I think we're good, but thanks for offering the opportunity.
I mean, I want to, but I'm not gay, so I can't. So.
All right. Well, you just enjoy it. You want to come out as something else?
I want to come out as so many things. I do a
platform here.
When I used to do stand-up comedy, Josh, I used to do a joke in my act about how one thing I was jealous of is that gay people get to come out. So like straight white male, you couldn't be like, "Hey, I like girls," everybody. And, if you said it that way, you probably didn't anyway. So, but it was fun joke. So.
Yeah. So we've talked about Tim Burton before. Again, we did an episode on Batman, and we did just recently kind of talk about him related to Willy Wonka. I mean, I've said this then, I'm sure I said it before, like I loved Tim Burton in his early work and I still have an affinity for his whole thing, even if a lot of his later movies are just him kind of slapping the Tim Burton look on mediocre material. I thought he was a bit revitalized with Beetlejuice. It seemed like he was actually like having fun and putting some more creativity into it, even though he was recycling. I mean, it was his own IP, but it was still sort of recycled. But I enjoyed that. And on the other hand, his next movie is a remake of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which could be good, but also could be just another like, here's the Tim Burton-y version of something you're familiar with.
You're hoping it's good. I mean, I'm looking at from 2001 on, Jesus, man, it's pretty depressing. I'm glad that he's producing Wednesday. I know you don't like it. I like it. But, if you look at this century, you got maybe Big Fish and Frankenweenie as the highlights. But considering the run he went on at the beginning, Pee-wee, Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, Ed Wood, like that's a real run right there. I know a lot of people like Mars Attacks, not my favorite, but like to go from that to what he's done this century is kind of a real downgrade.
Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe I'm grading him on a curve, like with his more recent films, where I might say, "Oh, I enjoyed Beetlejuice." Big Eyes is another one that was pretty good more recently, but none of those movies compare to his earlier films. And I do keep hoping. I mean, I feel like there's plenty of filmmakers where they get later in their career and you think, oh, maybe they don't have it anymore, or they're just kind of going through the motions, and then they'll find the right material, or they'll get more enthused about something, and hey, wow, they're really inspired again. And I still hope that Burton could get there.
Well, the first four are pretty much masterpieces: Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands. And then you could argue Batman Returns and Ed Wood are in that level too. Like, I mean, that's an amazing run. That's like a Rob Reiner style run that he was on right there, Josh.
Right. And I'm sure he won't ever get to quite that level. Rob Reiner never got to the level of his early work. So, I'm still like, I'm happy to watch something like Beetlejuice, where I can say this was a really fun, entertaining movie, and it feels like Burton is engaged with this material, and that's the best we're going to get from him. And I'm okay with that. I'm still happy to watch that movie.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's you, not me, buddy. But I want to talk about Phil Hartman, one of the all-time great performers on SNL. I think we talked about him. He's got the amazing scene in So I Married an Axe Murderer, right? So I pissed in his ocular cavities or whatever it is. And, we all know him as Troy McClure on The Simpsons. And I just think he, News Radio, he would have been a guy that would have been working forever because he could do everything from straight man to broad comedy to probably more serious stuff. It would have been really great to see where he went. Obviously, tragic ending. His wife killed him and then herself. So I remember that day we found out. I was in a rehearsal for a play in high school, and Justin Vaughn came in and told us. So, that was a big thing. That was very sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. And of course, he's incredibly talented. I loved News Radio. I was a huge fan of that show. I think I wasn't an SNL viewer necessarily when he was on, although I've seen a lot of those sketches later. But News Radio, that was my thing.
Well, you've always been a Joe Rogan guy, so that makes sense.
Hey, Joe Rogan, Andy Dick, quite a cast of characters in that show, but they were all good on News Radio. I won't vouch for what they did later or in their personal lives necessarily.
They did after Jan Hooks died on SNL. They showed I don't even think it's a very funny sketch, but they showed a sketch with like her and Phil Hartman, and it was like an homage to like old Hollywood movies. And it was a really nice thing that, just showing those two because they're both so versatile as performers.
Yeah, I mean, and Jan Hooks also died, unfortunately, young of cancer. And both of them, they were subsequently, like this movie was made before they were on SNL. And so I think being in this movie or working on this movie was probably a factor in their ability to get cast on SNL. And Paul Reubens had auditioned for SNL and was rejected, but both Hartman and Hooks were able to.
I think that was after Lorne Michaels had left. So, you wonder what people were looking for at that point in time.
Yeah. Certainly in 1985, I think was a period when Lorne Michaels was not there. And by the time Phil Hartman,
right, well, because I think it was like 81 for when he went. And
okay, maybe I'm wrong then. Yeah,
so, but I think that was after that too. Yeah.
Yeah. By the time Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks joined, he was back. So we mentioned you mentioned Elizabeth Daily, E.G. Daily, who plays Dottie, one of the like iconic voice actors with a million credits, known definitely for Tommy Pickles. She did the voice of Babe the Pig. She was the voice of one of the Powerpuff Girls. Those are kind of her highlights, but she's done a ton of voices, and she's also a character actor in live action movies. She was in Valley Girl. and the remake of Valley Girl. And she's been in some Rob Zombie movies. And what I found interesting that I didn't know, that she's had a singing career. And not only was she like putting out albums, but she competed on The Voice in 2013, which I thought was interesting after having a very well-established career as a voice actor and a live action actor, to go on that kind of reality competition show to see if she could kickstart her singing career.
It's interesting that they never did that for voice actors, that type of show.
Yeah, I mean, voice acting is a very specific kind of performance, and I don't know, maybe it doesn't lend itself to that visually. I'm not sure, but
I don't think that ever stopped reality shows.
That's fair.
Mark Holton played Francis. Josh, they were looking at Louis Anderson, who would have been great, but Mark Holton hits it out of the park here. Teen Wolf, Leprechaun, and John Wayne Gacy in Gacy.
Yeah, he's a, character actor in indie movies. And I definitely remember him. I rewatched all the Leprechaun movies recently for an article. And not only is he in the original Leprechaun, but when they decided to make a direct sequel, one of these movies where we ignore all the other movies and do a follow-up on the original in 2018, I believe it was, he was the only actor, including Warwick Davis, who played the Leprechaun. He was the only actor who returned in Leprechaun Returns.
Good work. Again. We should mention, I mentioned her, Lynn Stewart, who plays the Mother Superior here, who is Miss Yvonne. She also plays a totally different character, Charlie's mom, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So good range there.
Yeah, that is classic. So, and I do love Cassandra Peterson, and Elvira is, I feel like, almost as iconic a character as Pee-wee Herman. And she's kind of retired playing that character, but just so much mileage. And if you watch the Elvira movies, are not nearly as good as this, but they're very much in the same vein of like, here's this weirdo who is, in a sort of wholesome Americana context, and who is she and where did she come from and why is she this way? Who knows and who cares? But she's just sort of like having wacky adventures. So, I feel like if you like Dave, especially if you like these kinds of characters, Elvira's movies are something that you should check out.
Yeah, well, Dave loves wacky adventures.
I sure do. I love her. I've never seen any of her movies, though. I got to. By the way, Jason, you went as Pee-wee Herman for Halloween. I went as Dee Snider for Halloween one year. So,
well, I'm not going to take that.
Yeah. I do love Twisted Sister also. Sadly, Dee Snider recently retired from touring because of health problems. But I remember loving Twisted Sister. Speaking of, like, Paul Reubens, another movie that he is in and is from Randall Kleiser, the director of Big Top Pee-wee. Flight of the Navigator was one of my top favorite movies of all time when I was a kid. And I remember there's a scene where Sarah Jessica Parker's character, the concept is this 12-year-old kid has gone into space and he comes back, and it's because of space-time, whatever. It's like decades later.
Interstellar.
And exactly. It's that. And so he's reacquainting himself with pop culture. And she tells him that she went to a Twisted Sister concert, and he doesn't know what Twisted Sister is. And I, a small child, also did not know what Twisted Sister was. But like hearing that, I was like, Twisted Sister must be this like cool, forbidden adult thing that I must learn about later on.
And it was.
So, it really was.
Any love for Dee Snider's Strangeland?
I have not seen that, but it's probably
not good.
Yeah, would be my guess.
Unlike Pee-wee's Big Adventure. See, I wrapped it all up, Josh.
There you go. Anything else you want to say about the legacy of this movie, Jason?
Just a delight. Watch it. It's so good. I love it. Bye.
Yeah, that's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And that's this episode of Awesome Movie Year. Check us out online and on social media.
AwesomeMovieYear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram. Go to Letterboxd, watch our movies, tag it with Awesome Movie Year. I'm Jason Harris Comedy, or Jay Harris Comedy. Got some new Instagrams up, Josh. I got the trivia party up. I got Seasonal Work Film, which is about my short film that's playing the fest now. And I'm on Letterboxd at Go for Jason.
Yeah, follow all of Jason's things on Instagram. Do that. You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I'm at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Letterboxd, and on Blue Sky. And check out our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on social media at PiecingPod.
Jason, what's in our next episode?
Josh, even though we love 1985, there were flops that year, Josh, and we're going to talk about a very famous one. It's a movie called Clue.
So tune in next time for Clue, and thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.